In Jujutsu Kaisen, the Gojo, Zenin, and Kamo clans were first introduced as the most powerful families in the series. Besides the fact that they each had money and huge political influence, what made the three clans interesting is that they're one of the few things that remain constant in the Jujutsu world. That's why it's amazing that in just 6 months since Yuji ate Sukuna's finger, the Zenin, Kamo, and Gojo families have now all been completely crushed in one way or another. Spoiler warning ahead, but in today's video I'll be explaining exactly how the actions of Kenjaku and Sukuna led to the ruin of the big three clans, and by the end you'll understand how the series can move on after Gojo's fight to the death. Okay, so starting off with the Zenin clan, their downfall was probably the least surprising out of the three considering how explicitly it got foreshadowed in the JJK movie. That being said, it's still worth examining why the clan was destroyed, and it all traces back to their traditional beliefs. Throughout the manga, we learned that the only thing the Zenin care about is whether someone has talent as a sorcerer, and if that talent isn't there, they just don't treat you like a human being. This backwards way of thinking is why Toji was given such a hard time when he was young, because the family could never accept someone without a single drop of cursed energy. What's ironic about this is that Naoya and Ranta Zenin acknowledged that Toji had the strength to single-handedly wipe them all out, yet at the same time no one else respected him, since heavenly restriction wasn't the kind of power that they were used to. This thought process is exactly what stopped the clan from progressing, since they viewed cursed techniques as being everything, even though we've seen firsthand that there is more to it than that. For instance, characters like Kashimo, Maki, Yuji, and of course Toji, they've all done insane things without needing to activate a cursed technique, and if the Zenin had been open-minded about that, then this monster could have been part of their ranks from day one. Instead, they fumbled it by abusing Toji until he left the clan, which is what makes the Zenin so different from the Gojos. In JJK, the Gojos represent the more progressive faction, in that Satoru was always willing to disregard tradition and would accept anyone as long as they had potential. In the process, he created an army of future special grade sorcerers, while at the same time the Zenin was stunting their own growth. Because of their short-sightedness and refusal to learn from their own mistakes, Maki ended up leaving the clan in the same way Toji did, and this is where their downfall actually began. As Maki progressed at Jujutsu High, the head of the Zenin clan, Naobito, used his influence to make her life as difficult as possible. This included punishing her sister, preventing access to certain cursed tools, and making sure Maki was ranked as a low grade 4 even when her results were at least that of a grade 2. However, probably the most shameless thing they did came in chapter 148, where the Zenin secretly planned to kill Megumi, Maki, and Mai for their own personal gain. Just before we get into that though, a quick word from today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. If you live on planet Earth, it's very likely you've heard of this game before, but in the past year there have been huge changes you might not know about. That's why I've drafted in Professor Death Knight to give you all a quick lesson on the changes, and according to him, you're not allowed to skip the class.
Professor Death Knight here with a lesson about Live Arena, the new PvP mode where you can fight against other players in real time. Sounds terrifying? Well, so's going to the dentist. You should still do it. When you win matches, you'll get Live Arena crests towards unlocking special area bonuses, or so I hear. I'm too afraid to try any of this out. Alright class, any questions?
Yeah, so what exactly is your plan to survive the live arena?
Well, everyone thinks I'll go in fighting, but nobody expects my charm. My best strength is the gift of gab. So when they try to attack, I'll just be like, nice weather we're having, eh? Nobody'll see it coming. I hope you use this knowledge you've gained here today about Live Arena to head off and do battle. Live! Make this whole Dead Bones Professor proud, folks.
If you're a brand new player, all you have to do is use the code JTSKIN to get Stag Knight, who's an epic champion with a custom skin designed by Jontron. On top of that, all players, whether you're old or new, you have the chance to get Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King. And if you didn't know, this is a character from Chinese mythology who was the inspiration for Goku. To get him in raid, all you have to do is log in for 7 days in a row between now and the 23rd of October, so be sure to use the link in my description or scan my QR code on screen to download raid if you haven't already. If you click my link specifically, you get insane bonuses with this free starter pack that includes Drake, not that Drake, who's an epic champion that you get completely for free. Alright, so going back to the assassination attempt, like I said earlier, the main thing the Zenin care about is cursed techniques. As a result, when Naobito died, he left the family fortune to Fushiguro, which was the sensible choice since it guaranteed that the 10 Shadows technique would stay within their immediate bloodline. Despite that, sorcerers like Jinichi and Ogi weren't prepared to accept the entire family fortune going to Toji's son, given that he'd been an outsider for most of his life. For that reason, they planned to execute Fushiguro even though it would weaken their own clan, but obviously they couldn't just go and do it without some kind of excuse. This is where Kenjaku comes in, as we're going to explain how his actions led to the downfall of the Zenin clan and Kamo clan at the same time. One thing we need to realize about Jujutsu headquarters is that most of the people in charge are conservatives who don't like change. This is why the regulations are so strict against literally anything they don't fully understand or can't fully control, hence why Gojo hates them the way he does. Now, out of the big three families, the Kamo were by far the most conservative, meaning they had the largest amount of influence at Jujutsu HQ. Kenjaku was fully aware of this dynamic, which is why, around the time of the Shibuya incident, he murdered the head of the Kamo clan and took over their entire operation. By going this far, he turned the Kamo clan into his own personal puppets, which amazingly wasn't even the first time he tried to do this. Kenjaku then increased his influence by eliminating most of the higher-ups who weren't under the Kamo clan's control, giving him almost total power over the lords of Jujutsu society. One of the laws that came into effect after Gojo got sealed is that it would become illegal for any sorcerer to try and free him from the prison realm. This is what gave the Zenin a perfect excuse to kill Megumi without any consequences, since they knew he'd be trying to free Gojo along with the rest of Jujutsu High. Additionally, Ogi thought it would be a great idea to get rid of Maki and Mai as well, since killing his own two children would boost his credibility with the higher-ups. Unfortunately for him, following Mai's death, he wasn't prepared for his other daughter to level up the way she did, and without much effort, Maki eradicated the entire Zenin clan. What's funny about this is that on that day, she didn't actually go there with the intention of doing this, but it was Ogi's arrogance and heartlessness that pushed her over the edge. By the time Maki was done, the only people left with Zenin blood were her and the guy who wanted nothing to do with them, meaning that as an institution, the Zenin clan is dead, while the Kamo clan are just puppets of Kenjaku. By process of elimination, this left the Gojo clan as the only ones who weren't completely ruined, given that Satoru escaped from the prison realm after less than 3 weeks. Of course, in typical Gege fashion, Gojo's comeback didn't last for long, with him facing off against the King of Curses 1 month after he got out. This is what brings us to the main questions of the video, which is how big of an impact does Satoru have as head of the clan, and does the family have a future now that he's seemingly dead? To answer that first question, I want you to imagine for a second a world where Gojo acted just like all the other higher-ups. As head of one of the big three families, his easiest option in life would have been to just go with the flow and side with the conservatives. In fact, in Volume 0, he made a comment that it's possible for him to end up like them. If that had been the case from the very beginning, it's guaranteed that Yuji, Yuta, Panda, and Principal Yaga all would have been executed a long time ago. Megumi would have been raised by the idiots in the Zenin clan, and students like Maki and Hikari would never have been supported in the exact same way. In the present series though, those students are now the only hope there is of defeating Sukuna and Kenjaku, and it's all because Satoru went out of his way to lay the groundwork for a new generation that could potentially reach his level. The end result of this is the current situation, where the true authority in the Jujutsu world doesn't belong to the higher-ups, since Gojo students have proven time and time again they don't really care about the rules and regulations. In fact, in chapter 222, we see Yuta and Inumaki walking into Jujutsu headquarters, and then in the next chapter, we get a room full of dead higher-ups, heavily implying that these two were the ones responsible. When you couple that with the fact that Maki destroyed an entire clan by herself, the new generation clearly doesn't follow the old power structures. What that means is that if at least some of Gojo's students can survive till the end of the series, which is a big ask, but if some of them can survive, then going forward, Jujutsu society can stop being held back by tradition. This would allow space for either new clans to emerge or for the entire concept of clans to become irrelevant. Either way, if Satoru really is dead, which is what it looks like as of making this video, then this reformed Jujutsu society would be his impact as the head of the Gojo family. That being said, in terms of whether the Gojo clan has a future following his death, the answer to that largely depends on luck. The only reason Satoru was able to get away with the things he did is because he was the first in hundreds of years to have the Six Eyes and Limitless at the same time. If the Gojo clan get incredibly lucky, then another one might be born this generation, but even if that was the case, there are two problems worth thinking about. Problem number one is that just because a child is born with these abilities, it doesn't guarantee they'll have a similar level of talent. Satoru was in a way uniquely gifted in that he mastered how to do reverse curse technique, teleportation, consecutive domain expansions, and hollow purple, which is a power that was only known to a few people in the Gojo family. Personally, I feel like that specific line is something that gets overlooked, because if hollow purple is something that most people in the Gojo clan didn't know about, then obviously it's not something that had ever been frequently used in the past. Remember, in the present day, all the other clans already knew about red, blue, and neutral limitless, but hollow purple was the one thing that was just so rare that barely anyone was aware of it until Satoru used it. This shows us that he was clearly built different to other limitless users in history, especially considering how he held his own against Mahoraga and Sukuna at the same time, whereas one of his ancestors was killed by just Mahoraga by itself. Also, the manga goes out of its way to paint a picture that he's a natural genius, so there's no guarantee that any successor would be able to reach that level. Moving on, problem number 2 relates to Tengen and the possibility that another Six Eyes may never appear again. Before I get into this, I'm going to mention that this is just a theory, but there is some evidence to suggest it might be possible. In chapter 145, we learned that Tengen, the Star Plasma Vessel, and the Six Eyes are all connected by destiny. Every 500 years, the role of the Six Eyes seemed to be protecting the Star Plasma Vessel and enabling the merger with Tengen to happen. According to Tengen, Toji destroyed their destinies when he killed Riko and Manai, and this line can be interpreted in a couple different ways. One interpretation is that the Gojo clan has now effectively served its purpose, and now that Tengen has evolved into a cursed spirit, there's no need for a Six Eyes and Star Plasma Vessel. This by itself doesn't mean that a Six Eyes will never appear again, but we have to wonder how was this ability created in the first place. At first, it's easy to assume that these eyes are just a random mutation in the Gojo clan, but if that's the case, why is there a specific rule that 2 Six Eyes users can never exist at the same time? To me, that sounds nothing like a random mutation, and more like a binding contract that was made within the Gojo clan. If it was genuinely just a mutation, then like any mutation, it should be able to be passed down to multiple children in the same way as things like hair color, skin color, and other things like that. The fact that the eyes have this rule attached to them, and the fact that they also usually appear when Tengen needs to merge, it does make it seem suspicious that there was some kind of binding vow that was broken when Toji intervened. Let me know your opinion on this in the comments down below, but all I'll say is that if the Six Eyes is a result of some kind of deal, then there is a chance, even if it's only 1%, that the mutation never appears again in history. If that's the case, then it really would be the end of the Gojo clan, and the likelihood is that they just turn into more of a background family similar to the Inumakis. Of course, another way to look at this is that there have been long periods of history before where the clan has maintained relevance even without a limitless user, so they do at least have a blueprint for how to navigate through these type of situations. At a bare minimum, the Gojo still at least have the family fortune, so I don't know, maybe it's time to start investing in real estate or something and just leave the fighting curses to Yuji and whoever else. Regardless, before Gege wraps everything up, we surely have to get the reaction of Satoru's relatives to his death. I mean, it was kind of weird that none of his family were involved in trying to unseal him from the prison realm, so please Gege, at the very least, show us a reaction to him being chopped in half, like that is the bare minimum. It would also be kind of nice to see who the next head of the family is going to be, but I am definitely not holding my breath on that one. Anyway guys, if you made it this far, then thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my other video where I explain the history of the Gojo clan and the curse techniques of the Zenin clan. Also, I'd appreciate if you shared and liked this video if you enjoyed it, and until the next one, peace out.